Welcome everyone. My name is Matu, and in this video, I want to show you one of my latest projects. It is a Snowflake CICD pipeline. The reason why I created this small project is because in my daily job, we don't have any CI/CD solution so far. It means that every time when a data engineer do some modification on an already existing object, it is really painful to deploy it from dev environment into another environment. Also tracking the latest stable version and the difference between the versions, it's kind of impossible. So nowadays, the process for us is something like we copy and paste our SQL into a Snowflake UI, we execute it, and we pray that everything will work. And we can only hope we didn't forget anything. It works, but it can be slow, it can cause some errors, and especially when you are work in a big team, this whole process can be really, really messy. So I wanted to avoid this kind of issues in my hobby projects. So I was thinking, how can I easily just create a simple CI/CD solution? So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can build a simple, clean, and reusable CI/CD pipeline for Snowflake only using GitHub and GitHub Actions. This is the project I've been working on myself because I wanted to create a solid foundation that I could use for other projects in the future. My goal was to create a system where I can write my SQL code, push it into the development branch, and then I merge it into my main branch, and the system deploys it automatically into Snowflake. Currently, I have 3 different deployment options. One of them is a full deployment, so it will deploy everything what we have currently under the GitHub folders. The second one will deploy only the latest changes, and the third one will redeploy only the latest commit. This video is for you if you are a data engineer or someone who works in the data field, especially with Snowflake, and wants to get started with automation and DevOps principles. It is also for everyone who is new to Git, like I was when I started this whole project. This project was a great way for me to finally learn the basics of version control, and I will walk you through the concepts as we go. So what are we going to do today? First of all, we will start in Snowflake and set up everything what we need. We will create a dedicated user, a dedicated role, and a dedicated warehouse. And also we will do a key pair authentication, which is the most secure way to let our pipeline connect to our database. Second, we will move over to GitHub. I will show you how to structure the repository and how to securely store all of our credentials using GitHub secrets. Third, we will write the heart of our project, the GitHub action workflow. This is a YAML file that tells our pipeline what to do and when to do. And finally, the best part, we will put everything into an action. We will create a new SQL object in our development branch. We will merge it and watch the pipeline automatically deploy it into our prod environment. Believe me, it's absolutely not complicated. I was also surprised how easily I was able to achieve this, even though I was a beginner. It is not perfect, but it's a really good starting point. And by the end of this video, you will have a fully working CI/CD pipeline that you can use later on in your projects. So with that said, let's get started and go to Snowflake. So we can continue from here. Actually, this is, I think, the third time at least when I record this part of the video because I was not really satisfied with the quality first. Then I forget to record the sound. I also had some Snowflake issues, so I hope this time everything will be fine. I'm still not 100% satisfied with the quality, but later on I can improve. So for this part, I created a brand new GitHub profile. It is totally empty. So let's get started with the fork. You have 2 solutions to copy this project. One of them is a git clone command on CLI, and you can clone the whole project to your local environment, or you can use a fork. In this video, we will go with the fork. We will use the same repository name, and let's wait. Once it's finished, you can see that now you have this repository under your GitHub profile. If you check it, you will see that we only have the main branch. So later on, we have to create our development branch. And also in the settings, you won't have any repository secrets. So we also have to set up all of them manually. Let's go back to the project and let's see what is under the folders. The main part is the GitHub Workflows folder, where you can see 4 different YAML files. These 4 different YAML files are a different deployment solution. One of them is just a connection tester. We will check our connection between GitHub and Snowflake with this one later. And next to it, we have three different deployment pipeline. The main one is the prod deploy file. This pipeline will be triggered only when we push something into the main branch, and then it will be automatically executed. This is our main workflow, basically. The other two, a full deploy. With this, we can deploy all the Snowflake objects, what we currently have under the Snowflake folder. It will be triggered only manually. And the last one is a redeployment process, which can help us always redeploy the latest commits. It is also triggered manually. I will show you how those works in practice. What else we have here? We have our setup and folder with only one file. In this file, you will see all the steps what we need to set up our Snowflake environment. And we have our main folder, I would say, it's the Snowflake, where we have all the subfolders for different objects, what we want to store and deploy into our account. One thing what I have to mention here is that start of the folders, the prefix, the numbers are really important. I always start with the schemas and then the tables and then the views. And then if you need, you can create more folders like tasks, stages, or other Snowflake objects. Why the numbers are important is because our workflow will deploy the assets based on these orders. So first it will deploy only the schemas, then we will move forward to the table, then to the views, and later on for the later folders. Because as you can imagine, we are not able to create any table without a schema. So this is the logic behind it. Also in the README, you will see a basic documentation about this whole repository, how it works, how to set it up, but I will cover it in this video and how to use it and the folder structure. Okay, let's move on to Snowflake. For that, I created a trial account. Once you log in, you will see that Snowflake started to roll out the old worksheets. Now the workspaces are the default ones. And here you have a Git integration option. I have a plan to create a version 2 about this project where I will use workspaces and the Git connection from here. But right now I will go with the old worksheets option. And for that, you have to edit some preferences here. Just turn this off and give some feedback. For example, I did not find here the find and replace, but usually I use Visual Studio Code, so just leave a simple comment here. Okay, once we go back, you will see that now we have the worksheets. Let's create a new one, close those tabs, got it, and we can copy paste everything from the setup environment file to here. And let's go one by one. First of all, we need the account admin role. And then we will need a different role for our CI/CD. As I mentioned previously, we are going to have a different role, a different user, and a different warehouse just for CI/CD process. It is suggested to have different roles, users, warehouses for different type of workloads. So let's create the role first, then the warehouse, and the database itself. Once we have it, we have to grant some privileges to this CI/CD role to be able to use the warehouse, the database, and the schema. And also, we need to grant some future privileges on this database for this role, because later on we will create more and more stages, streams, tasks, pipes, etc. The next step is to create a user and grant the role what we created to this user. Why is it important? Is because with this user, we will log in to Snowflake from GitHub using key pair authentication. As you can see, the next step is the key pair authentication setup. For that, I left some comments here how you can create the public and private key. This is for Mac. I'm pretty sure that the Windows solution is really similar. Please Google it. So for that, we have to open a terminal and execute the first command. Basically, it will generate our private key with the name Snowflake CICD key.p8. The p8 will show us that this is our private key. The public key will end with .pub. Okay, let's execute it. One more important part is it will ask you to enter encryption password. It is our passphrase basically. Write it down somewhere else because we will need it later. We have to verify it. And as you can see, now we have our private file. Let's continue with the public one. As you can see in the command, we will mention the name of our private file, and with that, we will generate our public key. We have to add the passphrase again. And in this folder, now we have two different files. One of them is our private key. The second one is our public key. Okay, once we generated these two files, we have to alter our previously created CICD user and set up the public key. It is important to put everything into one line. So the public key looks like this. And what we need is this part without the begin and end public key rows. So just copy paste it and put it into the worksheet. As you can see, now it is fragmented into different lines. So let's just format it into one line. Okay, now as you can see, everything is in one line. There is no space or new line part in this public key. So let's just execute this command. And the last step in Snowflake currently is to create our test schema and create the deployment history table under this schema. This table will store all the information about our different deploy processes. Once you executed all the commands here, we go back to GitHub and we will continue to set up our Snowflake secrets. For that, click on Settings and go to Secrets and Variables and click on Actions. In the README, I mentioned what kind of secrets you have to create with some examples, but let's do it one by one here. The first, the Snowflake account. Create a new secret. The name is Snowflake account, and you have to put your account identifier here. What you will find under your profile, go to account, view account details, and in the first row, you will get your account identifier. Copy it. Then paste it here and add it as a secret. The second one is the user. Let's create a new secret, name user, and this is the user we created in the sixth step. So CICD user, add it. The next one is the role. What we created in the first step, add it. Then a database, what we created in the third step. Then a warehouse, what we created in the second step. And the private key row. For that, you have to open the previously generated private key, which one ends with .e8. And the difference here is that you have to copy paste the whole context with the end encrypted and with the begin encrypted part also. And the last one is the passphrase, what you used to create the public and private key. This is what I mentioned to please do not forget. Okay, as you can see, we have all our different GitHub secrets. Now let's test our connection. For that, go to Actions. I understand. And click on Test Snowflake Connection. Then click on Run Workflow in the main branch. Let's refresh it. And as you can see now, we have one running workflow. Click on it, and in the details, we will see after a few seconds the result. And if we set up everything correctly, the pipeline will run without error, and we have to see the test message, connection successful. Okay. If we go back to the repository, you will see that we already have some objects under these folders, like test schema 1 and 2, some tables, and also some views. Let's deploy it. For that, go to Actions, and now we will use the full or init Snowflake deployment workflow. With this one, you are able to always deploy all the assets what you have currently under the Snowflake folder. Let's run it. Go back to Actions, go to the workflow, click on the objects, and let's wait a few seconds. Okay, as you can see, the process will filter, sort, and deploy all the SQL files, and it will follow the order based on the numbers before the folder name, and also automatically it will ingest the result of each object's deployment into the tech deployment history table. As you can see, we will have some errors, and the reason behind it is that in Snowflake we have this public schema, but our role does not have the privilege to use this public schema, so we have to solve it somehow. So with that, it is not able to deploy assets under that schema. You will see also these errors under our deployment history table. Let's check it together. We have a deployment timestamp. It will show us when the different objects were deployed, what objects were deployed, what is the commit SHA, what is the unique identifier of that deployment, who is the GitHub user, the status, and the type, and also an error message. For type, it will be always different. For full deployment, you will always see this full deploy, and it will have a different value for the latest commit and the main prod deploy version. As you can see here, you will see the same error what you can see in the GitHub action. So in the next step, let's solve this problem. Let's go back to our main repository and create a new branch. Basically from here, I use CLI solutions, but now it's easier to show you everything in the UI. So I will create a new branch in the GitHub UI, and I will do all the work here, not in my local folders. Okay, so let's create our dev branch. As you can see now, we are in the dev and modify those objects where we had a problem, which is the customer table. So go to the tables, customer, and modify the schema name to an existing one, which is test schema. Commits. Okay, as you can see, nothing happened right now because we are in the dev branch, so the pipeline will not trigger automatically. But once we create a pull request to the main branch, you will see a new workflow running here. So let's create a pull request. Click on the pull request and create a new pull request. And our base repository will be our main and compare it to our dev. We just changed in one object our schema name, create a pull request. Let's wait a little bit. And if there is no conflict, we can merge it. Okay, we merged. Let's go back to the repo. And now if we click on the actions, we should see, yes, that our merge will be automatically deployed because we just pushed something into our main branch. So the prod deploy YAML file will automatically execute. Click on the details and let's wait a few seconds. This workflow will find and deploy all the modified or new files. Now we have only one. It is the customer table, and the deployment was successful. Let's check it in our Snowflake side, refresh this table. Now we have a normal deployment and the status of this deployment is successful. And if we refresh the test schema, now we have this new customer table created just now. Okay, let's test the last action, which is the redeployment of the latest commit. Now it is, of course, the customer table, what we just merged into our main branch. Click on the redeploy latest commit and run the workflow. Let's refresh. And let's wait a few seconds. It will also find, sort the objects from the latest commits and redeploy them into our Snowflake. It was also successful. We redeployed only those objects what we had in the last commit, which is our customer table. And if we refresh the deployment history, now we have a new row with the type redeploy without any error. So basically, that's it. This is my small CI/CD project for Snowflake. I hope it was useful for you. If you have any question, you can comment below. And if you are interested in this kind of topics, please hit this subscribe button and see you in the next one.